You ready to get started?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. So, just while the intro winds up here, for the people listening, they might want to know the kind of context of how this got started. Upload VR did post an article about your game, which I did read through, and I made a couple comments on, which led to you and I having some words on Twitter. And there's two things I learned from that. Two things I want to say about that before we get started. One is, it's very easy and quick to learn why you and I spoke like we did. And it's because you and I both care so damn deeply about VR and wanting it to succeed, wanting people to have fun with what's out there, wanting to explore and share with friends. Like, it's all passion. And unfortunately, sometimes passion just oozes out both of us quickly. And then two, and I know we've already spoken about it offline, but I also just outwardly want, Twitter is not a place to have conversations. You don't have enough characters to have real ones. And I know we've spoken, but publicly, I also want to apologize. We all need to be constructive and look out for each other. So I'm fully with you, and thanks for taking my offer to come onto this chat. I appreciate that.
I really appreciate you as well. And we've talked in the past, and I'm actually a big fan. So I also apologize, and I just like it, dude, because I have some really good friends that we fucking tear each other apart. But then, like, when we settle down and calm down, like, we're always boys. And there's not many people you can do that with, actually. Most people don't have the balls to apologize after something. Me personally, I always have to think, and I always apologize if I feel like I have to, and I have no ego in that. Because at the end of the day, if I apologize and they apologize, then hopefully it brings us closer together. And if they don't apologize and I apologize, if it was a mutually type thing, not just me, like I'm not gonna expect someone to apologize if they didn't do anything. But if it was like a mutual thing and only I apologize and they're like, all right, cool, like you suck anyways, and I'm like, all right, whatever, like, all you can do these days is try to be your best, right? And no one's perfect. Definitely no one's perfect.
I am far from that, my man. But pleasantries aside, before we get into this, you have a game that I think is going to be known, but definitely a lot of people probably don't know about it yet. So let the people know who you are, a little bit about yourself and the game, and then we can kind of get into the nitty gritty after that.
Awesome. So thank you, Eric. My name is Jonathan, or I go by Tropical online. I'm one of the three founders of AEXLab. I'm the CEO. I liked it back in the day when I was just Tropical, the community manager. It was a lot more fun and chill. But yeah, we are developing VAIL. VAIL VR is a competitive shooter and sandbox experience. So we're trying to merge two genres of games that I haven't really seen be merged before, but I'm excited to see where it goes. And I really believe the reason why it makes sense is just because of the medium that is VR. I would have never imagined this type of social experience that we're trying to add to competitive shooter if it was just regular Call of Duty or Halo or one of those games. Although I remember growing up, I used to do some fun Halo clips with me and my friends. So it's always been there. There's just no real good way to do it before.
Dude, do you have any reservations about going right into VR? Was there any reason why specifically you were like, let's go down the harder path? Because let's agree, VR gaming is going to be at least in my opinion, the harder path than other gaming avenues. Why this route? Like, why is this passion going right to VR?
I'll kind of, you know what? I was thinking about this earlier, and you just segued into it. Not many people know how we got to where we are, and from the outside, I wonder what people think. I mean, sometimes when I look at myself and my life, I don't even know how I got here. There's a running joke in our office between my brother and I. Whenever there's something hard or complicated, we're like, dude, I have no idea. I don't even work here. Like, I just got hired yesterday because there's so many things that we have no idea. But really, the whole entire company started as a studio, as a music label, actually. My brother Albert, that goes by Oud, is a pretty badass techno DJ, and his partner Elizabeth, she's also a really badass techno DJ as well. So both of them are techno DJs, and they've always music, art, film. Albert went to school for music, and Elizabeth went to school for film, but they're both really musicians and artists at heart. I remember they showed me the Kickstarter for Oculus back in the day. I think it was 2012 or something, and
Yep.
It was really cool. I think 2014, that's when Elizabeth got some DK1s from Oculus, and that's when she started experimenting with it. And initially, what Albert and Elizabeth wanted to do was make a VR music experience. So Elizabeth had an EP she was working on with some tracks, and she wanted to make Her EP was called Water Planet, so she made actually a VR experience called Water Planet. It's on Steam. I remember the first time she showed me what she was working on, I was just blown away. So I was a studio manager, and I just kind of helped. I was always in college, and I did it as like a side job, and it's for my family. And I always like doing like the business, the management stuff. So I'd help with like bookings and like all the business stuff. And I thought the VR thing was really rad. No one was doing it. So from 2015, 2016, Elizabeth toured a lot, kind of showing VR to people. Like we do a lot of VR art installations. We did installations with Red Bull at music festivals, at museums, and like just being a part of that, like every single time that someone put on a headset for the first time,
Yep.
it was just like the craziest experience. Like people seeing this and just being like, "Oh my god, like this is crazy." Everybody wanted to try it, right? But the biggest issue was when people said, "How do I get this at home?" You'd have to tell normies, right? Oh, you have to have a really expensive PC. You have to get a headset. Most of the people, they either use mobile gaming or console gaming. A lot of people have MacBooks. Not quite a large market size at the time for PC VR gaming, but we loved it.
One thing I also want to do is just to set the stage, because there's a couple things that you said that I definitely want to get into a little bit more. But I think to set the stage properly, that way people can even understand half the stuff we're talking about. I think we do need to quickly delve into your game a little bit too, to go over the TLDR of what it is, because if we don't do that, all the other conversations that I really want to get into with the
so I can explain that. So in the story, we started off as a VR music experience. When the first few shooters came out in 2016, like late December 2016, early January 2017, that's when I played with my brother and we were obsessed. Like I love VR shooters. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I also saw that there was a large need for bringing the quality of PC VR gaming in 2016, 2017 for a first-person shooter to what I was used to, which is Call of Duty standards or CS:GO standards. So what we did is we jumped in. At the time, the game was called another name. It was called Shifted. I didn't even know about like IP law and all this. I just named it something. We thought it was cool. And then from 2017 to 2020, we worked on just a competitive first-person shooter. But what ended up happening in COVID is all our community members, they would spend more time sometimes just hanging out in the lobby, which is the virtual home, just talking, hanging out, doing a random thing. Some people would make videos, movies, whatever. And I started seeing games like Fortnite, games like Roblox, all these big games all over the news. And I started realizing gaming is really becoming a social thing. And even me as a gamer, I run around World of Warcraft. I don't even play half the time. I play random, like battlegrounds just to like kill time and talk with my friends. So then that's when we started thinking, hey, maybe this whole lobby thing, we can do some really cool, like, social things in there where people can hang out with their friends in between matches. So that's kind of like how we got to, competitive shooter, adding the social, and because we love music and art, we want to start adding eventually like in-game concerts and really badass like techno sets and like all types of music, but really everyone in our company is like techno people. But that's kind of how we went full circle. So the core of the game is the first-person shooter, but there's so much more you can explore that with the medium that is VR. That's kind of how we started going into this like exploratory phase of social and VR.
So I was reading your start engine, right? I feel like most of the info I'm going to come with, just for the audience, is a culmination of playing your game when testing comes around, from being part of the Discord and asking questions, and of course from the start engine, which was an interesting way to fund the game. I know between start engine and Kickstarter, those are two people that are very familiar, but you had people basically invest in your game. I was reading through your start engine campaign, and there's a lot of interesting comments about it. One that I really want to get into that I think will culminate in not only explaining a little bit about your game, but some of the deeper parts about it, the vision and why it might matter, is you had a section specifically titled, word for word, virtual reality content is lacking. And within that section, there were 3 big points. And I thought each 3 brought up another like niche within VR that needs to be discussed. And I'm hoping to hear about how your game kind of will tackle all of that. So for one, your first bullet point within that was that VR lacks a market leader for esports and competitive shooters. So before I get into kind of the thought process on that, when it came to developing the main first-person shooter aspect of your game, why did you want to go that competitive esports route? Like what are you seeing that's lacking in that area?
So one of the biggest enjoyments for me, I'm a very competitive player. So my brother and I have always played competitive games together, from CS:GO to Rainbow Six Siege being like the two
Yep.
really big ones. I even take Call of Duty competitively, even though some people say it's not considered competitive, but I take Call of Duty competitive. So we always wanted to do something competitive. Some of the things that I believed were lacking were just proper MMR matchmaking. A lot of the people that I hang out with, like they were in VRML or are in VRML, and there's a lot of gentleman agreements on so many little different things. And I believe like
Can you
the
give any
true
examples of those?
like you couldn't use certain weapons, you couldn't use certain
Okay.
guns, certain game modes, like a lot of gentleman agreements, like if someone disconnects or what happens if like, a crash happens, like a lot of things like that that usually like CS:GO, like there is no gentleman agreements, like CS:GO is built like strictly for competitive. I also felt like some of the spectating and casting systems could have been improved for,
Sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like it was 2017, it's the first generation of gaming, and I never thought like, oh, I'm gonna go and be like the best game, like everyone's doing it wrong. I just thought there's room for like, I don't know, a few dozen top competitive esport games, from shooters to car racing these days, or what's the one with the soccer?
Oh,
You know what I'm talking? Rocket League,
thank you.
even Rocket League. So we just felt like we wanted to focus on the competitive scene. And I was really in these discords early on. I know one of the top two, they really focus on the competitive scene. It was ultra real. It was like super realistic, one bullet, one kill, which I like. But not everybody likes that. Some people like the more spongier, like 3 to 5 bullet, like medium to high time to kill, instead of like, one bullet, one shot. And then the other side of the spectrum, you had the more arcadey, more focused on the casual player, more focused on the TTT. That I believe if they really put in focus on the competitive esports side, it could have been something much bigger than what it is today. But at the same time, financially, I understand why. The competitive scene in VR was not that big before, and it's still not that big compared to anything else. You can't justify spending the amount of money it takes to make a competitive game in VR focus just on, that's a really small niche. Like competitive VR
Yeah.
esports players is like a very small niche.
That was
But
kind of
we
my
felt,
thought process in that question. I don't mean to cut you off, but when
yeah,
it
go
came
ahead.
to the comment specifically on the start engine about that VR lacks a market leader for esports, I can agree with that. There are many games that are trying, but none has landed. But I think about it a lot. And in your opinion, and if you have examples of what you're doing with VAIL to solve these or make it that leader, I would love to hear about that on what it does. But do you think there's not a leader in esports because of the game design, or is it a product of VR as a whole right now where it's just not there?
I actually think it's just where VR currently is. I think I started learning a lot about how finances dictate game development, how it dictates release dates, why certain games get released before they're really ready, because of the whole
Yep.
publisher-developer relationship. I've been learning these things as I go, because there's a lot of things that I'm like, why does it happen this way? And I didn't understand. And I was nervous when I kept going deeper and deeper into investing into this, so I had to do my own research to understand like what is the possibility of a Call of Duty or a CS:GO really like coming into VR and just like taking everything, which would be great because it would open up the pie that even if I had a small fraction of what they'd bring, I still think it would be a win, but I have to be aware of why isn't it that they're here. So the first biggest constraint, in my opinion, is um, financially. I think it's not large enough of a pie to really spend money into research and development to get everything ironed out perfectly. It's more of a casual market. So financially, big backers, if you tell any VC or institution that you're focusing on the competitive scene, they will not fund you. They want to hear that you're focusing on the casual player, and specifically nowadays on the standalone casual player. That's just what they fund. So the amount of resources available to actually focus on proper MMR matchmaking and a lot of net code and things like that, it just doesn't financially make sense. Additionally, to do proper MMR matchmaking, you need very large quantities of players. You need large volume of players. You need to have AI, machine learning that can like start pairing proper players and their play style together to really get the best experience. But there's not enough players, and even today, I still don't think there's enough players to justify that. So who would invest in building that whole system out when there aren't enough people playing it? But I was like, I'll tell you, sillily enough, I had no idea how much it would cost, and I had no idea how long it would take, and I completely under budgeted time and cost on both of them. But now we're here, and thank God, I feel like VR is really going to pick up, and I give it a few years before it's like really, really big, and all of these things are justified. I think this was the year for VR, mixed in with the COVID year, that it makes all these big institutions and big players say, let's start funding this and take massive losses up front because there are going to be players on the other side of this.
Well, of course there'll be more. But what specifically? Because I want to bring this back to Vail. Obviously, I want people to know kind of the vision and what's going on within your game. Because I'm not gonna. I don't want to go over the third point because it's like pure agreement in my mind. Your third point in that virtual reality content is lacking was hardware has outpaced the software. I got no arguments there. Like, there's a lot of focus on hardware, good or bad. I'm not getting into that debate, but I think many people agree that software is lacking. And Vail is a potential PCVR bit of software that could come into that void that people really want. But what is Vail? What specifically, other than the mixed or the MMR matchmaking, when you look at like Pavlov and Onward, I know you and I have gone into like what's done differently, and it's hard to go through that down to the T. But what's your ultimate vision for the competitive side of Vail that's going to make someone like VRML go, that's our game. Like, that is our boy right there that we're going to bring to the top.
So it's a lot of details and a lot of going back and forth with the community for like very specific things. But generally speaking, the way that we like to approach it is we host play tests with some of the largest teams. They tell us exactly what it is that they want. They want a fair, balanced game that leaves it up to skill. So what that means is instead of a run and gun shoot, they like to think tactically. So when we focus on actual level design, we focus on level design in a manner that we actually have to time a lot of different. There's like a lot of math and like actual rules of thumb that we've taken from traditional games that we've had to kind of like port into VR, which is a little different. I think other than that, it's just really about making it easy for gamers to be able to host their own private lobbies. I think it's very important also to have casual lobbies versus rank lobbies, but still today there isn't enough of a player base to do it. So you can build the plumbing out, but it won't pay off for a while. On top of that, I think proper netcode and high server tick rates are very important. Netcode really just comes down to having zero latency, having as low latency, as low ping as possible for the players, having proper hit registration. VR body models are a little funky, so there's a lot of like small minor details in the actual IK system. IK system being inverse kinematics, being the way that you calculate. And I'm just saying this for anybody that might be listening. It's the way that you calculate your full body. So you take data from your head and your two hands, and without the need of additional trackers, you try to estimate where the body is. We're working on proper lean detection right now. So even with only 3 points of data, when you lean, you can actually lean. A big issue right now in VR is if you lean your head and you think you're peeking your head, your full body moves.
Yes.
You get hit. There's a lot of jiggle peeking because in VR you can move in the game and you can actually jump in real life, which are things that are not experienced inside of traditional games. So we're focusing on anti-jiggle peeking. There's a lot of like little things like that. And I'll tell you, I am not a competitive VR esports player. I was a competitive traditional player, and I was never highly ranked. Albert was very highly ranked in CSGO and Rainbow Six Siege. But working with people like GlobalChem, we work publicly with GlobalChem quite closely, and they have so much experience that there's so many fine details that only someone that's been doing competitive VR esports could do. And we get a lot of feedback. It's just a lot of little minor details that make the competitive players feel like when they're playing, it's skill-based instead of luck-based. That's really all the competitive players want. They want to know it's a fair match based on skill. So they don't want random stuff happening.
That's fair.
That's really like at the core, that's what it is.
So this next point, the second point, and the reason I'm focusing so much is I really like that portion on the on your start engine is about virtual reality content is lacking, because that's what shows me the start of the vision, right? Those are the core pillars of like, this is what I believe, and we go from there. And number two gets real kind of messy because I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna add too much into number two, but we can piece it out. Your point number two in the virtual reality content is lacking was that PC and console games lack social depth. So where I want to start that conversation is where I started the tweet that kind of started this whole thing. And based on this conversation we've had so far, we've kind of hit that part where wanting to know about Vail, it's a hard question because there's the gameplay portion, there's the competitive portion, and there's the social-based portion, which are all core pillars to this game, to you, and to this start engine, and what I can pick up. Let's start with the vision, because I think that's where things got muddied so much on my comment and the community, is your start engine page really does focus primarily on the competitive aspect. Yet there's a lot of talk, whether this conversation or online articles about the social aspects. Where how are you navigating that, where you want to have this social aspect to this game, which I fully am on board with? I agree with you. I think most of the top VR games have a social aspect, but you're going to have to walk this fine line between the competitive sweats and the competitive aspect, which people take very seriously, and the social aspect, which is almost different than a competitive game. Tell me about this ultimate vision for VAIL, between how are those two going to mix well?
So everyone loads into the game the same way. Everybody pops up into their house. The second that you load into the game, you're in your virtual armory, your house. Whenever you open up your tablet or your iPad inside of VR, you get to decide. Similar to VR chat, if you can go to Worlds. So think of the armory as just like the lobby. All the social thing really is a gamer's lobby reimagined with additional features. So it doesn't affect the competitive players in any way, shape, or form. And for the actual social players, the fact that we focus so deeply on true proper net code to have like very proper like it's just everything, it's very high fidelity, very high quality. We really try to focus on that. It actually helps the social players because if you were just trying to focus on a social game, you probably wouldn't put that much attention to proper net code because when you're shooting bullets, you need proper hit registration. In social, things don't have to be that responsive. You can have a little bit of lag in it, really. So I think the social players just really benefit. And I imagine that a lot of competitive players probably won't use the social, and I believe a lot of people will come just to use the social. Really, I've always had a vision that we always want to do whatever the community wants. We started off as a competitive shooter. We focus on the community. I love talking to people. I spent all day on Discord trying to like get to know everybody and like seeing like what problems they have, what they like, what they don't like, and I like playing with them. Like it's something that really brings me passion and joy. I saw people doing the social thing. It kind of started off as like a joke. Like people would hang out in the armory and we're like, why are they even doing this? I'm like, let's throw a chessboard in there, be cool. And we started seeing the game hours just going up, just playing chess. And then we're like, all right, let's throw a little arts and crafts thing. And we just really started throwing out these feelers, and the community really dug it. And we just started adding more and more to it. And the end goal of this is to be a sandbox where people can pretty much do whatever it is that they want within their homes. And if they want to go in and out of homes to friends' houses, like let them build whatever it is that they want. We don't want to guess. We just want to give the people the tools to build what they want, but it will not affect the competitive side. And people for the competitive side, I think it's a cool place just to hang out in between matches. And I also have a vision where people can go into like social servers and do pickup games or like meet people that are like-minded, have certain topics or subjects that they all like, and I'll give you an example. Like one of the campaigns I ran quite a while ago when I was letting people in for the first big wave of VAIL is I said, if you come with 4 friends, I'll give you all keys because I wanted to foster this sense of like you're here with your friends. Whenever I play games with friends, I play a lot longer than if I don't have friends.
I would
Um,
fully agree with
and
that.
it feels good, right? So then a lot of people came to me and did that after I went through all the waves of the VRML players coming with their groups of friends playing. That was the first wave of players, like pretty much like a majority of the VRML teams. Then some people would hit me up saying, "Oh, I don't have friends." So what I would do is I'd pair people up and make them be friends, and then it'd be like, "All right, I put you guys in a group chat. Here's your 5 keys. Go play together." And I like doing that because I like friends. I think it makes it fun. I think the retention's longer. It's more enjoyable for everybody. Really, the reason why people play games, especially multiplayer games, I hope, is to make friends or be with friends.
Yeah, I
So,
wanna press you on that a little bit because I
go
think
ahead.
you're right. For the record, I think you're right. I think, especially in a first-person shooter, which is impersonal. When you think about it, you're pointing guns at other people. It is an inherently impersonal game because the ultimate goal is to kill the other players around and not speak with them. It's to kill them before they kill you. Do not interact, which is super fun. It is. That's why people love first-person shooters. But it doesn't bring people back. What brings people back is playing with their friends, is socializing, talking. The tougher question is when you pitch your game as a competitive shooter and a hyper competitive, like the esports standard. I might be overstating that boundary, but an esports standard. How do you get people in the door with that vision, and then over time convince them that these social aspects that you're putting priority on? So someone might come say, "Hey, I'm here for the social. I'm here for the competitive shit. That's my jam." And then they see an article about adding VR hockey or VR chess to the social scene, and then they want to clap back. Sort of what I did, almost, right? how do you convince people like me? Well, I'm already on your side, but let's take someone who's not thinking social first. How do you convince these competitive first, the way your game's pitched, that these social ads are actually good for the whole? How do you bridge that gap? Because I think that's the question here. When people push back on you guys for throwing hockey, chess, DJs, whatever in there, because they want competitive, that's the hard part. How do you get that vision where everyone agrees that that's the right way?
Look, I'll tell you that I don't know. As you could tell, my marketing message was obviously not that perfect. In my own community, I had a lot of people that have already played, and a lot of people do the Veil social without even knowing, right? We just put a name on it. It's already the same thing that's been being used for a while. We're just announcing it and giving it a name. So the people that did it were like, oh, this makes sense. This is cool. It's going to bring in a lot of users. More users equals better, matchmaking. Like, hopefully those users will play some games. A lot of people from the outside, though, even some investors that, probably haven't played the game for a while or don't even have a VR headset, they were just very confused. So I realized immediately that I definitely fucked up the messaging because it wasn't a smooth transition. Some of the things I'm thinking about is I need to be more public. I need to do more things like this with you. So that's why I know we spoke, and I appreciate you helping me like kind of give the full picture, because I believe when people know the full picture, it makes sense.
Yes.
But I live it day in and day out. Some people, probably saw us 6 months ago. Now they're seeing us for the first time. They hear it's a competitive shooter. Now it's social. It's very confusing. My end goal really is attract as many players as possible, give them the tools for them to build whatever it is that they want, and hopefully this helps fuel the player base for the actual competitive and even casual game lobbies.
Yep. And the reason I bring that up too is, and I think this is a good thing, because you and I had a long conversation well before, I mean, what, like maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
I played the game. We talked the other night. Like, I can tell you, out of many VR developers that I've spoken with, like, I feel pretty comfortable being upfront and honest with you. And I can tell you, when we had that conversation the other night where you're expressing that my vocal tweet is also something other people think about, it sucks to hear, because I want you to succeed. And then we start speaking here, and I have no problem being open and honest with you, that sometimes when I ask you, what Veil's about, it goes 10 other directions. And that vision can be hard to explain. But ultimately, what I want from this conversation is I want people to go to your Discord. I want them to see Veil News. I want them to eventually get into testing, hopefully. And I want them to see what this is about in some type of way where you can have the floor to speak, open your mind, and give a little bit of everything. But I want you to hone in, like, talk about Veil, talk about what it is, and feel open and feel secure that, yeah, your vision might be a little all over the place at times, but typically that's from people who care about their product. If your vision wasn't all over the place and you were hyper focused on one thing, that's probably worse off, I think, than being a little too broad, in my opinion.
I actually agree, and just one of the things that really, like, I'm a gamer my whole life, and I've realized that some people make games trying to guess. Games take a long time to make. Some people make games trying to guess what the community or the users in the future might want to do 4 or 5 years from now. It's very hard.
I think most VR games do. It's I've said it before. It's building the plane, right? Building the plane as we fly it. I mean, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, but for me, I'm open to pivoting no matter what. I mean, sometimes people make a certain game expecting it to be played a certain way, and they have ego to that way. Some developers, me, if people want to come into Veil and hit each other over the head with the plunger, and that's what they want to do, I'm going to make them a plunger. Like, I actually got asked this recently, but just to let you know, like, that's how I'm open to doing whatever it is that the players want, because who am I to be egomaniac and say, this is the way that I want it to be played, and this is the way that I want the game to be happening, and if you don't play it this way, fuck off.
You do have that. Like, I hear your thought, but you do also have that right. It is your baby, and you're bringing it to us. Like, we are lucky. I say this a lot. When I see a game come out, I can think of a couple. I'm not going to name them, but they're up on like SideQuest and AppLab, and I see them listening to everybody, trying to implement everything. But every now and then I sit back and I think, like, it is my privilege to be able to play your vision. You know what I mean? It's art.
That's interesting.
And sometimes I'm like, if I had all the answers and all the abilities to make the perfect item, I would do it, but I don't. So what I get to do is I get to live vicariously through other people's visions. I get to experience their mind and maybe what they thought is best for me, because I'm biased, man. Everything that I think is best for me comes from the veil of everything I think. I'm all biased. So sometimes I want to sit back, not have my voice heard, and be shown the artistic value that that person wants to provide, because that's my privilege to experience that. If I had a say in every damn movie I watch, they would all be the same movie. They'd be the same damn thing, right? So sometimes I think, and I hear, and this is kind of what I was going with, is that I think sometimes you should just go with your vision. Stop listening to people to a degree, because it's our privilege also to see this baby that you're making, if that makes sense.
No, I had never heard it like that, and that actually feels really nice to say, bro. Like, I never heard it. I never thought about it like that. I know it sounds weird, but like when I started learning how like publishers like kind of like dictate studios and developers, like I always had this vision that I could just be completely independent and listen to the actual community instead of listening to, you know, a publisher, an executive, or a VC.
Yep.
So that's why I'll tell you one thing, like, and it goes back to funding, but so many, it sucks, but I'll be honest, like a lot of the things that we have to do, and this is something that a lot of the outside doesn't know, but a lot of the inner community knows, we have to do what we believe not only is good for the community, but we also have to cater, or had to cater, to potentially having a VC. And I went for over a year pitching VCs, and their visions, I'd give them my vision, and they'd tell me, that sucks, let me give you my vision. And if you don't want to do my vision, I'm not giving you my money.
Yes.
And none of these guys' visions even made sense half the time. Some of the biggest VR investors in the world, publicly, that claim it on their websites, didn't have a VR headset. Some of them would have an intern bring it in, and like they didn't even know how to use it, and they'd lie to me and say, oh, of course I have a VR headset. And you can know, I mean, I play VR, you play VR, bro. Like, you know if someone knows about VR or not. So it started getting frustrating that the people investing in this aren't gamers, they have no idea, and they're trying to tell you what they believe is like the broadest market appeal, to give you an example.
Yeah.
Also, talking about competitive shooters and esports and VR, a lot of these people were like, you're crazy, we're not going to fund that, it needs to be casual. And like a lot of crazy things, like that's like a whole like 5-hour tangent, like of crazy
Well, I mean, we
things
could
that
get
they tell me.
into the one little bit that we can discuss about that is,
Go ahead.
what is the rationale behind, and I ask this sincerely because I do not know the answer. Kickstarter seems to be a very typical way a lot of people fund their VR projects. I can think of many Kickstarters that go. I mean, Lynx just had their Kickstarter, which I think wrapped up around $700,000-800,000. Start Engine, I'm not as familiar with. What made you guys go the Start Engine route? And what is Start Engine? If you could give a brief TLDR over some of the Kickstarter.
So Kickstarter is version 1 of crowdfunding. Start Engine is version 2 of crowdfunding. The difference between Start Engine and Kickstarter is, in Kickstarter, you're pledging or donating money, you're getting a reward or a prize or whatever the tier may be, and you're helping fund the vision of this project. In Start Engine, you're actually really investing money, receiving real equity, and maybe additional perks like hats and whatever. So it's Kickstarter with stock. That's the difference. So the truth is this: I got paid when I ran out of money because I under budgeted the time it took. I said, okay, I need to raise money. I tried pitching VCs. It was a nightmare. It never made sense. So I'm looking for alternative ways to fund this because I didn't think the game was ready. If I launched the game when I ran out of money, we would have been screwed. The game was not ready at all. So then I saw a friend of mine told me, oh, do crowdfunding. And I'm like, dude, I do not feel good about Kickstarter, because Kickstarter, like, that's the thing. Like, I studied finance, so like I really know finance. And a lot of people would tell me, oh, I invested in this company. I invested in this company. But they didn't, you know? And I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to say a name, but I'm going to say this publicly. There was one Kickstarter that was massive to VR that was funded by the community and sold to a very big company for billion plus, and not one person that backed it got anything out of it. I didn't like that. I thought that was fucked. I really thought that was. I'm a finance guy. I invest in things. Like, that was fucked. That was a fuck situation. People should have gotten something out of it for backing it. I don't know, more than just a headset. So when I heard equity crowdfunding, I didn't know what it was. It's a new thing. And just so you know, the reason, and by the way, I don't blame that company. I need to make something very clear. There's a new law that just came out in, like, I don't know, 2016, 2017, called regulation crowdfunding, that allows regular people, retail investors, to actually invest. Before that, it was illegal, and that's why you had to donate on Kickstarter, because there was no legal mechanism for the retail investors to invest because they weren't accredited investors. So there was no way to fund projects and get equity. When this new law came out, I was like, this is amazing. I love this because now people can get equity. So that's why I did it. And after the VCs were kind of pissing me off for so long, I was like, you know what? If I can get funded by the community and the community can tell me what they like, what they don't like, those are way better testers and gamers and community members than a VC. So I just went for it. I had no idea how it was going to go. I was shitting bricks because every VC that I was talking to told me, if you do a start engine and you don't raise the full amount quickly, we're going to come and we're going to take it for fucking nothing because you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because think about it, it's like the worst red flag if you don't get funded. So bro,
Yep.
I was like, I had no other option. I was like up against the corner. I was shitting bricks like every single day, refreshing the page.
You did very well. You did
Dude,
very well.
it was like, dude, 1,000 people supported me. I cried. I fucking cried almost every single day of the way, refreshing that, seeing real people's names, having them DM me saying, yo, I invested in your community. Can you give me a key and a role? I was like, that got me going, bro. I was like wiped out. I was like,
you were definitely one of the first. Actually, you are the only one I have seen game wise. I've seen a couple creators use it, but developer wise, creating game, you were the first that I've seen in VR use it. Why do you think? What was the onus on those 1,000 people that made them invest? Why? How do you convince them to do that first? And do you think it was just pure passion? Is it pure believing? Why are people going that route?
Look, I have so many different people write to me, and I always ask why. I'm like, what made you want to invest? Initially, we were involved in a lot of Discord communities with all like the developers in VR, like from Steam Dev days and Oculus days, and like we just knew a lot of people in the space because we just been involved for so long. So a lot of those people, dude, it's hard. It's hard. Like no one wanted to fund VR, so like a lot of these people, they were like, dude, you're fucking nuts. Like I support you just to like support the fact that you're even trying to make a game. And then it got to the point where a lot of people in the community started asking questions. I started hosting AMAs every day, and people realized they're like, this is a real guy. I'm like 26 years old. I'm fucking crazy. We kind of had a working product. I sunk all my own money into it. So like people were like, if this guy's crazy enough to go to zero on his own money, it must be something. And then as we started growing and growing, a lot of people just like it. And to be honest, man, like I'm a gamer and I still think we're lacking games. If I see games raising money and I can invest in it, I'd support it just because we need more content. I think more content is just going to grow the entire space. Like gaming is such a massive market. I remember when I first started, my goal was I want to be the 100th best studio in the world and I'll be the happiest guy. And like there isn't even 100 studios, which is crazy. So like, anybody involved right now is going to like change history. Like just being involved in it right now, like we're crushing it. Like it's crazy, especially with all the stuff that happened publicly lately. Like, dude, this is crazy.
Well, we're speaking about stuff publicly, although I don't know if it's public yet. Do you want to get into the elephant in the room now?
What's the elephant in the room?
I think you know where I'm going with this. NFTs.
Oh, NFTs.
So, let me prime this space. let me prime this space for you. So,
go ahead.
I think this is important because this is where people shut off. This is where people either are on their echo chamber of it's the enemy, it's done, or they're on the echo chamber of toxic positivity, right? There's very little middle grounds when you bring up the word NFT. So I think it's important to frame this. They're not going anywhere. Whether you believe in them or not, which I'm up in the air, and you and I have talked about this. I am up in the air.
I was skeptical for a long time, and I'll tell you how I flipped. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still like in this conversation. I have not agreed that I think they're going to be good for gaming, but there are applications where I'm like, it's interesting. Let's talk about it. Where I think it muddies the water the most between us, or at least between VAIL and the community, is there already is, like we talked about, the vision gets murky. Competitive shooter, social scenes, then NFTs come in the mix. It's a triangle of confusion, a triangle that really makes people question, and that's where you get people where, like I said, you can be toxically positive about NFTs, and there's also toxic negativity. Let's try to piece this together. I don't want to go like all off the wheels of like what an NFT is and go all the place.
There's so many things, but go ahead.
There's too many. So let's try to like narrow this down. Why are NFTs even coming up in the discussion with VAIL VR? Like condense this pretty quickly. Why did you want to bring this in? Yes.
Really quickly, it started with funding.
Okay.
It started with funding. Every decision that happens is because of funding usually. Not always, like, it's much different having 100 million in the bank and just getting creative versus like what's the most we can do with the amount of money we have and how do we get more to build more, right? So I raised $1 million in February. The law changed in March to let you raise up to 5 million, so I went to go raise another $1 million. And while this is happening, Facebook acquired 6 studios, massive VCs invested $80 million, $100 million rounds. Another studio that just started with some executives raised $35 million. Everyone's raising crazy amounts of money, and what this does is it starts increasing the salaries of a lot of these developers, which is
Sure.
very good for the industry. But it's a lot more money than I ever expected, because now you're paying 2, 3, 4, 5x the
Sure.
salary, which is great if you can afford it. For an indie shop, we're getting murked. If we thought, $5 million gets us 10 full time for 2 years, now $5 million gets us 3 or 4 full time. So like we need a lot more money. We only raised 2 million so far, and dude, 2 million bucks for. I
Yeah.
know it sounds like a lot of money, and a lot of my community thought we were scamming them when we went to go raise another million immediately after. And I always told them, like, guys, first of all, some games cost 100 million plus to make. It's very expensive. Second of all, you always have to be raising, because the second you stop raising and you get too close to comfort, you might, when you need it, you might not have it. So like you always got to be raising. Even I like having a cushion. Like right now I have a few months runway. Like if I could have 12 months runway, I'd probably sleep at night. But what ended up happening is I started equity crowdfunding. It works great. It's not enough. VCs started reaching out to me saying, "Hey, you're like one of the last independent studios. Like, do you want to talk? Like, we're funding everything. Like, every VC is funding the whole metaverse." I dated for months. All these VCs, I didn't find one that clicked. And I'm not a traditional Silicon Valley guy. I'm a Miami guy. I curse. I don't have a track record. Like my track record's playing, thousands of hours of World of Warcraft. I made a
Yep.
joke saying I think that the fact that I was a guild leader and I could manage 40 people raids is better than fucking working at Goldman Sachs or something. But like people don't see that. I also think gamers are really smart, because you're very like, dude,
Yep.
so much information you're calculating in your head. Like gamers are fucking smart.
They
So,
are.
but
All right. All
VCs
right.
don't look at that. They're
So
like,
so
"What's your exit?" Like, whatever. So, long story short is, the number one question I always got asked, on top of all the bullshit, is, "What's your exit strategy?" I don't have an exit strategy. Like, I did this because I love this. I want funding to continue doing it, hopefully forever. The
I
second
was
you
gonna say,
say no exit strategy,
are we thinking a little too far with an exit strategy? Like you're building a
no,
work of art right now.
dude, every single VC, that's like the question they ask. What's your exit strategy? And I'm like, it's so far away. Like, you have to have a strategy. Even if you don't do a new pivot, like, we need it, because they have criteria they have to check off, because it's not their money. They're investing it on behalf. I learned so much about this game. But anyways, I finally get a term sheet from a VC that I kind of like, that I had a really good relationship with. And the term sheet had a lot of clauses I didn't like, but one clause specifically was they get to pick when we sell and who we sell to. And I didn't like that. And there was no budging on it, because they thought they could sell it really quickly and like I can still be CEO, whatever. I hated it. I had no other option. I was about to sign this. This literally happened a month ago, brother. Like, it literally happened like in October. I had to pivot the whole company, because I started reaching out. This guy reached out to me. I reached out to him. We started talking. He's a very well-known NFT guy. I was very skeptical, but he kept like talking to me, teaching me, and telling me. And he said, "Look, NFTs could be a way to crowdfund, and it could be a way to digitize an NFT digital assets." And I'm like, "What does that even mean?" And he's like, "Imagine you have Call of Duty skins. You poured hundreds of hours to unlock these skins. You poured hundreds of dollars to buy these skins. And then the new Call of Duty comes out. All those skins are gone. Even if you wanted to sell it, you can't. So with NFTs, you can hold the value in the actual item. Ideally, if you have a new game come out or other games come out, you can freely move them between worlds, because you're no longer storing the data on the game. You're storing it on the blockchain. And you just need games to develop portals, kind of like a web browser. Think of it as like a VR 3D asset browser that can get slap. It can be open protocol, open source. You can slap it on top of every game, so you do have to integrate it. But then if you're inside of VAIL, you can see your furniture or your weapon skin. And then in any other game that adds it, whether it's VAIL 2 in the future or it's another game that comes out and wants to also accept it, you can now take your valuable assets and move them from world to world, and you always own it, and
Let me
you always maintain value.
let me stop you there real quick, because
Go ahead.
here's my question. When I hear NFTs in gaming, like I said, I'm open to it. You and I spoke about Revo. Like, I don't agree fully with that settlement, but like the fact that I could hunt down a shiny Pokemon. It's not Pokemon, guys, but it's called Revomon. So
I use Pokemon to even
yeah,
talk about Valiant sometimes.
Take it for what it is. But to hunt down specific, very rare Pokemon shinies and then have the ownership of them to sell them to somebody else is cool. But when I hear games talk about NFTs and that you can have an asset in your game and bring it into another, are we ever going to really? And I mean this openly, just talking out loud. Isn't this very dependent on VR being super open and allowing the interchange? Like, what happens if every game stays the same way as it's always been, where they're in their own bubble? How do you make those NFTs valuable solely within your game and your IP and your universe, putting everyone else outside the equation?
Let me tell you what our NFT does, right?
Okay.
So when I looked at NFTs, people were buying JPEGs for millions of dollars. I didn't understand it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is a scam. Like, what is this? Someone explained it to me very well. They said, imagine that a members club, right? Whether it's a country golf course or a tennis club or a social club, whatever type of members club it is. Imagine they only had 10,000 memberships for the rest of eternity, and people are buying into this club by buying this JPEG that now puts them in a Discord where they have other community members, and the more demand there is for this club, there's only a finite amount of memberships. So as the demand for the club grows, more people want it, value goes up. That's what made me understand why people are willing to pay millions of dollars for a JPEG, because they want to buy into this hype beast. It's status. It's, I'm somebody. Look at me with my public NFT, right? Right click save. People could do it, but trust me, if you're a famous celebrity with the celebrities are buying this shit, they're not going to do that, because if people find out you don't own it, it looks bad. I know you can right click save, but they buy it and they own it and they publicize it like, I'm part of this community, whether it's a monkey or, a punk, whatever it may be. So I thought that was, I get it now. I'm like, okay, it's that. But so what we're doing with,
I mean this nicely, but is that not just another crypto coin? It's just a crypto coin launch, isn't it?
No, because crypto coins, you're not buying, well, you're buying into a protocol. You're buying a token that you hope has a lot of adoption and has a lot of applications on it. This is like you're buying into a members club. You're buying into a community. Okay. That's what you're doing.
So is this how VAIL's going to be using them?
No, so the way that we're using it, and this got me excited, right? So normal games, they have battle passes.
Yes.
You buy a battle pass, $10 a month. It's a subscription, $20, whatever it is, and then you get airdrop things. When you hold our NFT, we can airdrop you things forever, and whoever owns it at that time, because it's in real time, like some people might sell it, buy it, you're buying in and out of this membership constantly. Whoever owns the NFT at any given moment, we can click a button and give them in-game items. So you can treat it as a battle pass, actually. Not only can you treat it as a battle pass, you're supporting the funding of the studio. You also have now an in-game pet that you can kind of like do fun things with. We're going to have them battle, we're going to have them race, mini games. So it's like an in-game mini game that you can purchase that also is like, it's just cosmetic. It doesn't affect the actual core gameplay of it. And other people that see it, it's like something cute to look at. They can play with it too. And then the third way that we're doing it is we're building out one social server just for NFT users to enter. So if you have this NFT, normally these NFT communities is Discord, it's Telegram, it's WhatsApp. Now they have a real club to go and meet in person. And I was in NFT NYC, and I saw people waiting in lines. They owned like $100,000 JPEG of a monkey, and they still couldn't get into the event. And I realized that, like, wow, these people just spent $100,000 on a monkey. They were waiting in line for 3 hours. They got max capacity. They couldn't even get into their own community event. I didn't think that was cool, so I thought VR could solve that. I was like, people want to hang out with their community, and they're taking money from the digital world, right? So taking money from the digital world, putting it in the physical world to do real life parties. I was like, maybe they put digital money in digital worlds. Community members can come. And dude, like, I know a guy, he's a doctor. He has an NFT he's dropping. He wants me to build out a VR, like, cool place for all the doctors to meet up because they're all over the world. So they just want a place to hang out and show ownership. Some of these NFT communities can be $50, $20, $100. Like, it doesn't always have to be that crazy headline news of like $1 million thing.
How do you buy? Let me put it this way. How are you going to get your community to buy into this?
So we're doing two things, because I know the VR community is not as flush with cash as the crypto community. It's obvious to me. I'm a VR guy. I have no money. A lot of my friends in VR, like, we're nowhere near crypto people level. Like, we aren't. Crypto people is like way different. So we are going to be selling this NFT. We're doing it in an interesting way where we're setting a floor price and we're letting the public decide what they want to pay for it, and whatever they want to pay for it is what they're going to pay for it. So the way it works, for example, is we're going to do the auction. We're going to have a floor price. The top 10,800 bids are going to get it. So people can offer whatever it is that they want, and whatever the market price is, it is. And what we're going to do is, for example, if someone offers like 1,000 Ether and the 10,800 bid is, 0.1 Ether, everyone's going to pay the 0.1 Ether so that no one overpays like for the same thing. Like, I want everybody to pay the same thing, and it's up to the market to decide. So we're not putting like a real price on it. It's like whatever they want. What was the question again?
It's kind of it was sort of the logistics of how you're going to enact it, but I think the bigger question
Oh,
here,
okay. So
man,
yeah, so
I
that's
think
I remember now. So that's one side. The second side is I haven't announced this yet. You get an exclusive. Next week, I'm going to be announcing a daily giveaway. So any VR community member can make a meme, a GIF, a poem, content, whatever the fuck it is that they want. And I'm going to pick every day a VR community member that's been part of our community to give them a free one. So we reserved, I forgot how much, like over 1,000 of these NFTs just to give back to our own community. I haven't announced this either, but I'll tell you here. I plan on giving every investor, about 1,500 people that had already invested in the company, an NFT. Even if you invested $100 or $100,000, everyone's gonna get an NFT. Community members are gonna be given one daily in giveaways. I want to give it to as many people as possible. If you can't afford it and you're a community member, like you should have a chance to be able to get one without having to pay for it. So I'm giving back a lot, and then I'm also letting the crypto community, if they want to buy these things and pay prices for it, like they can, and then hopefully that money can be used to fund more and more of the development studio.
yeah. Um, the real question though on this, and this is the last part I want to talk about NFTs before we wrap this up, because
Good.
I do have something I want to talk to you about. I get having the opportunity to get in. I think it's pretty obvious. You're going to get pushback for this, right? How do you get buy-in from the community that you already have? Maybe, and it could be more than one community you have to do. You have the community maybe who jumped in at the beginning, what competitive shooter love. You may have the community now who loves the social stuff, and you may have a community that loves NFTs, and you also may have a community that hates NFTs. So how do you even navigate those waters?
It is messy, brother. I don't have an answer for you right now, but I'll tell you what I said in my own Discord yesterday. We had a chat, and it was a heated debate, but it was actually pretty civil, and a lot of things opened my mind on many different angles of it. But I ended up asking the question to the community because it started getting chaos. I'm like, guys, I'm gonna put you in my shoes right now, and I'll end it with this. You're the CEO of a company, you're a first-time founder, you have 14 full-time employees, you have an option to take VC money that will probably destroy your baby, or you have an option to risk it all and do an NFT drop and be 100% community funded, from equity crowdfunding to NFT crowdfunding to like self-funding. And it's a big risk. I took a risk with Start Engine, I'm taking a risk with this, and I just hope that if the community believes enough in us to buy it, and then we can deliver on the product. Like, I'm not out here doing what a lot of blockchain companies are doing, like, fund me, I'll give you a game in 5 years, I have nothing but a white paper. Like, I have 6 years into this, so like I have something to show for it. So I just hope that people see how hard we work and that we're really using the money to good use. And as long as we put out a badass game, I hope people are happy. Like, we lack content. I'm just trying to make content, and I'm trying to make it with my vision in mind and not being controlled. And I'm always open to changing. I'm always open to pivoting, but it seems like this makes sense. And my goal is for it to get to the point where people don't even know it's an NFT. The user experience should be so freely that like you don't even
Fair.
know it's an NFT. And an NFT is like a buzzword. Like eventually it's just gonna be like, oh, you're buying that outfit, cool, let me buy it. Boom. Like, oh, you own it? Yeah, I own it on the blockchain. Like, cool. Like it shouldn't be like this whole complicated thing of like an NFT. And there's a lot of barriers to entry in crypto. It's a little confusing, and I hope a lot of companies are gonna spring up and like kind of make it seamless. Like Coinbase made crypto easy. I think that something like that will pop up for gaming in general. So I'm excited to see where the space goes, and I have no fucking idea where we're going, brother. But it's exciting.
It is exciting. I think we're almost at time. I want to end it. Okay, so these talks that I've done, right? This is number 32. Might be 32. 32, right? When I started this, and this is a little bit me being vulnerable and open. When you start this, you want to get clicks, right? You want to say, what do I do to get clicks, right? Then you start learning it's not about clicks, it's about having good conversation, about learning the right questions, talking person to person, right? So you start off being standard interview questions, standard this, standard that, and you start learning how to actually just talk to people like a fucking human, right? Like we're doing right now. And then you learn how to be open. And I have the opportunity to like be honest with people. And I need to start doing that rather than realizing like it's not about making friends, it's about being honest. And I want you to know, like, I want you guys to succeed, and I want this product to come out. My one concern, and it's what we talked about last night, is like, remember, man, you are like in my mind, like I want to play your vision. It's got to come out eventually, and I know you want to listen to everyone, but I hope that I don't know when is this game supposed to launch, by the way. That's the big question is dude, bring your vision. We want to have the
I'll tell you
privilege.
this. I'll tell you this.
We want to have the privilege to play your art, man. So make that competitive shooter, add the social elements go, but like let us play. Let's see what you got, man, because that's really the end goal here, right?
All right, look, my brother's gonna kill me. We're targeting summer for a large scale open beta.
There you go.
After the large scale open beta, we're targeting hopefully, and don't hold me to it, but like
Wait,
we want to release next holiday season. Like we want to. I can't promise anything. Thank God I don't have a publisher that's like, if you don't release this date, you're fucked. So we're open. But I will tell you something. Like I give keys out all the time. Anybody that asks me, I give it. Like I'm not stingy on the keys. Like I want everybody to play it. So feel free to reach out. I'll love to give you keys if you want to give away some in your Discord community. Let people see what they think. We can do stuff like that. But yeah, I don't fucking know, man.
I'm less interested in like. I'm trying to say this the right way. Like it's not about giving out the keys and stuff, man. What I want in a lot of these questions is I want people to know what VAIL is. I want the vision, and I think we've done a lot of that, right? But at the end of the day, like my biggest like hope is that as you find your voice and find like this figure out this madness, right? Because that's what it is. This is pure madness. Just make it any game, not just you. But it's pure madness in the VR space. I want to see your vision. I want to like understand it better over time, and I can tell you, I am very glad we had this conversation. I'm very glad we had that interaction on Twitter that led to this because, I'll be honest with you, I was very confused. I was not writing it off, but I basically just, I'm like, it's just I have no free time, so I got to pick my games very wisely that I invest in time in, and I wasn't going to invest any time. I can tell you based off this conversation. And what I hope the whole point of these conversations with and the viewers, that I'm going to spend more time now. And I hope to see this vision really come up to something because you are building the plane as you fly it. I want to be there for when it's built.
Brother.
But
you have no idea how much that means. Like, really, Eric, like, I appreciate you, bro. Like, you have no idea.
Just remember, man, it's you. I know, and I say this to a few creators, like, everyone's got an opinion. I do. I got a billion of them, and a lot of them are wrong. But ultimately, it's your vision and your opinion that I want to experience. Otherwise, I'd create my own game, but I don't because I don't have that vision.
Bro,
you know what I mean?
I just want to say, like, thank you. Like, I'm happy that like whatever happened like led to this, but it means a lot, bro. It really means a lot. I respect the fuck out of you. I think you're like one of the most real ass fucking YouTubers. You just say whatever the fuck you want, and like that's kind of my style. And I really appreciate being able to speak to someone that is open to changing opinions because I flip all the time. Like, you know, a lot of people, they go with an opinion and they just stick with it and they're stubborn. And me, like, I've been wrong so many fucking times and I'm like, I flip flop in my own head. Like, people tell me things like it's ridiculous, but dude, I fuck with you and I appreciate you and being able to say my story and like give my side of it. It means a lot. And I'm gonna be hitting you up for some marketing advice, man, because you know way more than me. Like, dude, I got so fucked.
We're all just figuring out as we go. So, like, my DMs are open. So anytime you need to reach out, dude, we can spitball and pick ideas up. But for those who are watching, of course, I'm going to be putting all their socials, their Discord, everything, video description. I'm also going to be clipping this video for Erica Present Clips. That way, if an hour is too long, you can find the condensed version. But I will give you the last word, my man, if you want to let people know where to find you, any plugs you need. I want to give you the final word.
I just want to say shout out to the whole entire VR community because I still can't believe this is my fucking job, man. Like, I wake up every day and I'm just like, what the fuck? And congratulations to you, man, and just people like us being involved and like just being fucking crazy and like going hard at this and like trying to make this a career. It takes a lot of balls and I appreciate it. And also players that decide to play, really early level VR stuff 24/7 when they can be playing other stuff. Like, God bless you too, because like we're all visionaries here together. Like, we all know what this could be, and we're here. Like, it's awesome. So thank you. I just want to say thank you, brother. Really.
I think that's the perfect way to end it. You guys know what to do in the video description, and as always, we'll sign off. We'll see you next time, Space Cowboys. Peace.